one of his sheep, and he killed the lion. So now he says, so shall this Philistine be, Goliath. I'll do to him, and God will do it through me. And David in no way thought he could beat Goliath. And it's very clear when he goes out to the battlefield with his sling and his stones, he doesn't say, I come to you in the name of David, son of Jesse, you better watch out. He says, I come to you in the name of the Lord. The Lord is going to guide this stone, and the rest, as they say, is history. So by accounting what has happened, by the time David is an elderly man, in Psalm 37, he says, I've been young and now I'm old, and I've not seen the righteous forsaken. As a little boy, he helped me. As a middle-aged man, he helped me. And now in my later days. And David died a natural death, so to speak, of failed health. He wasn't murdered or some kind of intrigue with an enemy king. He just died of old age. But he says, through it all, God's been with me. And in Psalm 23, he said, surely the Lord prepareth a table before me. And remember that term? My cup runneth over. David experienced overflowing joy even through the valley of the shadow of death. So James is writing to early believers of the first century who were being persecuted, arrested, and put in jail for their faith. You talk about squeezing you. When they were telling you, the early Christians, to recant their faith, denounce Jesus, and claim Caesar as your Lord, and they would say, I cannot. Jesus is my Lord, and they would be put to the lions or incarcerated or starved or lose their positions in society. That's squeezing, folks. And out came their Christian faith. Out came joy unspeakable and full of glory, because they had learned that the joy of the Lord was their strength in good times and in bad. Now let's get back to the text here in James 1. It says that we're to count it all joy when we fall into divers temptations. And that's King James English, divers temptations, meaning diverse or various, manifold, many types of trials and temptations. Now let me remind everybody, James later says in chapter 1 that God does not tempt you to do evil. That's a character quality. God cannot tempt you to do wrong. He does not do that. Satan is the deceiver. Satan is the one that tempts you to do evil. But God does allow trials and testings. He allows you to be put in a... He allows the squeeze to be put on you so that it will show what's inside. But he is not drawing you away to evil. Don't ever assume or think that God led you down a path to end in evil. That was never is his way. In fact, verse 13 says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. So anyone that would say, well, God tempted me with this man or this woman or this money, or that God did not tempt them. God, there was a trial there to see what was down inside, and it revealed who you really were all along. But what are these various or diverse trials and temptations? Well, they obviously, I mentioned they can be financial, they can be relational, they can also be subtle. They can be a gentle squeeze. Because see, a gentle squeeze on the old bottle will do what? It'll come out. A hard squeeze, it'll propel it out. And sometimes life brings you trials like that. But a gentle squeeze, if you're ever using this, I would recommend the gentle squeeze, okay? But a gentle squeeze still makes what's inside come out. And a gentle squeeze of a subtle problem. I think as a corporate group, we're all subtly squeezed financially like never before. I hear you talking about it constantly, and I'm talking about economic pressure. That's a subtle thing. It's not going to go away tomorrow. Or it's not going to go away in November if we have an election. There's no day when our economic pressure is just going to lift. But while it's subtly and constant pressure on us, it reveals what's down inside. And if there's bitterness, resentment, anger over that, then that will come out through your words and through your actions. If there's a sense of, I don't like this, but you know what? God's provided before, and that's where you need your reference points. When we first got married, God took care of us. When I lost that job because of an accident, God took care of us. When this happened, God... And see, when you build up those, then when the new one comes, the new layoff, the new health problem, the new disappointment, you can say, 21 times in a row, God's always taken care of it. But you know what we want to do on the 22nd time? We want to act like the sky is falling and God's never been there. David didn't write, I'm old and I was young and now I'm scared. He wrote, I have a reference point. God always takes care of me. He's with me even in the darkest hour. So as we consider it all joy, build up that library or reference point of past things, I want to show you with two real Bible characters how not to do it and how to do it. And we're going to find them in the book of Job. So if you're still back by Psalms, Job is right there to your left, a couple of books. The book of Job, we're going to be in chapter 2, and then we'll turn to chapter 13. Now, if there's anybody that had the squeeze put on them in Scripture, we think of, obviously, Jesus. He got the squeeze put on him by being betrayed, by being cruelly beaten and out of him. When Jesus had the squeeze put on him, he was on the cross. He'd been beaten and whipped, and he was having nails driven in his hands and feet. And guess what came out of him? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That was deep down inside him all along. He didn't lash out and curse, and he just simply said, Father, forgive these men. That was inside of him. And the cross brought that out. In Job, we find a man who suffered greatly. I believe most of you are familiar with his background, but simply stated, Satan, the devil, claimed that the only reason Job honored God with his life is because Job had it made. He was financially prosperous. If Job lived in our county, in St. Clair County, he'd be the wealthiest rancher, landowner in St. Clair County, bar none. The Bible lists his land holdings and his livestock assets, and he would have more than probably every farmer in St. Clair County combined owns today. So he was fabulously wealthy. He had a large family that was successful, and then he himself was just a good entrepreneur, and he had many opportunities to be well known. So he had local celebrity, I'll call it. He was popular and doing well in life. And Satan said, well, of course he honors you, God, because you've done all this good for him. And Satan proposes that if it's withdrawn, Job will curse God. And God says, I know him. You can do anything you want except take his life. And the rest of the book of Job, and we won't have time, obviously, to cover the whole book, but Satan does do that. First of all, he takes Job's children through a calamity of natural disasters. Then he takes his land and livestock through invasion and through famine and pestilence and all kinds of trouble. And finally, we pick up here in Job 2 with Job losing his health. And let's look at verse 7 of Job 2. And let me catch verse 6, because this is everything. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thy hand, but save his life. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. And if you've ever had a boil, if you know what those are, very painful, very ugly, and very difficult to get over. They just don't go away. And he had boils from the top of his head down on his feet. I imagine those were the most painful of all. And he would take